Welcome everyone to the Feel Inspired podcast. I nearly looked in the wrong direction there, but welcome. And I've got an incredible guest today, Anila Dhami. We go way back actually, so we'll share a little bit of our story, but I'm keen to hear more about your journey and how you got to where you are today, because I think what you do is fascinating and I love it. And I'm a big fan now as well. But if you're joining us for the first time, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And go check out some of the past videos as well. In fact, we just dropped our bumper Valentine's episode where I had not just me on the couch, but I had not one, but two, but three other dating and relationship experts as well. So if you're struggling with your dating and relationship life, make sure you go check out that episode and you'll find everything that you need in 1 2-hour bumper episode. So without further ado, I have a tradition here, Anila, and actually have a gift for you as well.
Oh, amazing.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I created these cards. They're called Spark Conversations cards.
Okay.
No relations to Stephen Bartlett's. And I actually thought of this before I even knew his were in existence, just in case Steve happens to see this. Anyway, so on these cards, on these Conversations cards, you have a question on each of the playing cards. So I'm going to get you to tell me to stop in a second. And we're going to ask you a question. And this is how we begin.
Okay.
All right. So just say, let's do it this way. Say stop anyway.
Stop.
Alrighty, let's see what we've come up with.
Wow, this is exciting.
Oh, okay, cool. What's your favorite way to stay active and have fun?
The first thing that comes to mind is being around people I love.
Lovely. And is there anything particular that you guys like to do? Like some people are like they like board games, some people like hikes, they like walks. What's your thing?
I mean, again, the first thing that comes to mind is talking.
No, oh really?
So I love connecting with people and I love talking. So anything where I feel like we're having a good, hearty conversation and being able to connect.
But you a gym rat as well? Like, you know, what about staying active?
I do love going to the gym.
Yeah.
My goal this year is to go at least 3 times a week.
Nice.
But even that can include doing a yoga session. I love yoga. Yeah. Anything where I feel like I'm connecting to my body and feeling my body.
Nice. I love it. So this one is for you, by the way. And then obviously you can use this in your workshops with your clients and stuff as well. So a pack of Spark Conversation cards for you as well.
I love that. That's amazing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You. So nice being here, Amit. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, no, the honor is mine, definitely, without shadow of a doubt. But we've got an interesting background as well, because obviously we started on, I was in radio and then you started on radio, and I kind of helped in your training a little bit.
You did?
Yeah. And then now you've gone on to do massive things. So this was when we were on Buzz,
and
which
then
was pre-2012, I believe.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
Or 2012-ish, because I remember I started in a new job, and so I kind of packed it in shortly after that. But I just remember us having so much fun in the studio. Myself, Summit Hip Hop Chronicle, and yourself. We just ended up having so much jokes. So I loved it.
And one thing I really remember is that you were so supportive.
Oh.
Just so supportive. There was never a moment where I thought, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It was always a can attitude. And it's all the people around you that say you can do it that gets you to where you are.
I love that when you said the can attitude. It reminds me of that little thing. I'm an American, not an American.
You certainly are.
Oh, bless you. You're too kind. You're too kind. Thank you. And I'd love to know a little bit of background about how and why you decided to go down this route of media. And please do lead up to what you're doing today, because I love it. I think it's fascinating how far you've come and seeing your journey and all the people who you've met, and you know, people who've kind of mentored you or have been a part of your journey as well. So I'd love to give us a background of your story, wherever you want to start, wherever you want to lead to.
Okay, well, I'll start from the beginning, which is when I was 15, I was asked to do work experience in year 10, and I wanted to do something different. I was handed a piece of paper and it was choose from these places. And I said, let me think outside the box. What else is there out there for me? And I grew up in a small village, now a town, and I wanted to venture out. And so I found a local radio station, Club Asia.
Ah, yes, of course.
And it required my parents to drop me off because it was a bit further away than our local shops or the local places we would go to. And it required a bit more paperwork and for me to actually actively go out and seek this work experience because it wasn't on the list that everyone else was going off to do. And I loved it. It was it was an amazing place because of the energy of the people. And I think the people around me on my journey have been essential. Like I said with you, it's the can attitude people, can do people. And because I loved it, I then went and did work experience and joined a charity called Headliners, and they trained me up in everything to do with journalism. And I'd always loved writing, so I thought I was going to do newspapers, magazines. And as soon as they put me in front of the camera, they said, "You're brilliant on camera. We want you to be our person who we can go to interview MPs and high profile people and decision makers and ask them the questions that you would be sitting at home watching TV wanting answered." And so when I then ended up in Parliament interviewing MPs at the age of 15, 16, I was like, there's a lot of power here to be able to ask the questions that people want answers to. And if I can be that person, that's incredible. And so that's what's inspired me to get to where I am today, which is working for so many media companies, The Telegraph, LBC, London Live, ITV, Channel 5, BBC, pretty much most of the big media companies.
We missed it. I think that's all of them, isn't it? There's none missed there.
Because
we missed Sky News. Okay, cool. We missed one.
missed a few so far. But really, I've been led by people and their stories and the questions that they have on their minds when they're at home.
Yeah. And of course, you're on TV as a news anchor and sharing the news, and sometimes you're doing live spots as well and a whole host of things. So your talents have no ends right now. You're literally of covering a whole... Because isn't it true, or is it true? Let me ask that question, in fact, that people tend to niche down, whereas it seems like you've got quite an eclectic, a broad sphere of talents.
Yeah, you're right, because you can specialise in an area, and I'm a general reporter presenter, which means I can be placed anywhere in a programme. I can do a top story and a hard-hitting story. I can go out and find a story on something, or I can do the entertainment stories and the music and the fun stuff at the end of a programme. And again, it's that I'm led by people. So wherever there's a story, wherever there's the heart of a story, that's where I want to be. So, and really, I mean, you talk about skills. The reason why I'm able to be across everything and pretty much do everything a journalist can do, really, and do it well, is because I have worked hard at gaining all the skills throughout my career. So rather than staying in one place and working my way up, I said, what do I need to become one of the best journalists? And I went out to different places, and I worked as a producer at the same time as working as a presenter, and at the same time as working as a reporter, to gain all the skills I needed to become a wholesome journalist, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And I suppose in a way that kind of goes against the grain of what sometimes young people are told. Niche down, just focus on one thing. But you kind of buck that trend in a way. Would you say? Would you agree?
It's interesting you put it like that. I didn't do it consciously. It's probably because I didn't know anybody in media when I started. Like I said, I came from a small village in Essex, the outskirts of London. Nobody around me was in media, none of my family friends. So I had to find my own way. And the path for me looked like, there's my dream, there's my goal, how do I get there? And I just went like this and tried to get to where I am today, basically, by knocking on doors and finding people who I thought may have the answers.
So now that you've done all of this, what's kind of your bigger dream, your bigger goal? What would you aspire to do next, considering everything that you've done?
For me, it's still remains around telling people stories. I'm still really passionate about getting to the heart of a story, getting to the heart of a community, and shining a light on issues, topics. It's really more of what I'm doing. I mean, I'm literally doing what I've always wanted to do. So it's hard to think of anything else, because I've worked so hard to get here, and I'm good at what I do. I'll be confident to say that. And I want to do more of it.
I'm glad you said that. I'm good at what I do. I often use that line when I'm coaching people, and I talk about this, and I say to them, if I were to begin this coaching call with my head down, my shoulders shrugged, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm quite a good coach. You're not going to take me seriously. As opposed to me saying, I'm a fucking great coach. And do you know what? I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I literally learn every single day. I have an insatiable thirst for learning. So what you're getting from me is all the up-to-date stuff. But being able to speak with that level of confidence, it's quite rare to hear that. And when you said it, I thought to myself, that's a beautiful thing to hear, because that is not ego, that's not arrogance. It's just speaking to who you truly are and recognizing what you've achieved. Would you agree?
I agree. And I also believe that when you're in a position where you are speaking to people or people are trusting you, you first and foremost have to trust yourself, and you have to trust your ability before other people can trust in you. That's conviction. It's really important to what I do. If people are trusting me with their stories, I have to be able to trust myself to say, I will honour your story, or I will share it authentically. And I can only do that because I have the skills to do so.
Do you imagine perhaps having like your own TV show one day, kind of being able to bring more stories to the forefront of? That's
a great idea. I love it.
Would you do it?
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Be like, not necessarily the next Oprah or Ellen, but the next Anila, the new Anila, but similarly, sharing stories of people and doing what you can to, bring, attention to their stories so that, people can learn from it, grow from it.
Yeah, why not? I mean, any platform to share a story is a platform. Yeah. So I don't rule anything out.
Who's been your biggest influence to date so far?
I would say my mum, because she is somebody who has an amazing balance where she will constantly be driving and motivating me to think bigger. It's that mentality of think big and go for it and don't ever put yourself down. But then she also has this incredible balance of always be kind and always be humble. So whatever you're doing, never do it at the expense of somebody else. Always lift other people up while you're doing it, and always have others at the forefront of your actions.
What kind of hurdles did you hit as you kind of got up to this point? Was anything specific that kind of potentially did deter you that you had to overcome, or various messages that you heard or anything like that? Did you have any particular hurdles that you had?
The main thing really is that I didn't have the knowledge of how to break into media and get to where I want to be, because there was nobody around me to guide me, because nobody knew themselves. I had all the support. My parents were so supportive and said, yep, if you want to be a journalist, we trust that you will go and do it and be successful, and left me to my own devices. In a way that helped, because it gave me so much freedom that I was able to go on the trains at a young age and tour the country with charity headliners, and go and knock on doors and go and stand in public spaces at events and go up to people who were complete strangers and introduce myself as a budding journalist. So I had the freedom to explore the opportunity that I wanted and the goal that I wanted for my life. But really it was that I didn't know how to get there. And it was really through researching and asking people that I paved a way and built relationships along the way. And now I can say that I know so many people. And some of those people I'm working with who are now, my bosses, they remember me knocking on their door and saying, can I have some advice? And I remember them letting me in, even though they were right at the top. They let me in and sat down and said, this is what you need to do. So it is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for my path and the fact that I had to go out and seek these people, because now I'm working with them or have worked with them or I'm around them. And we all know that we've said yes to each other. We said yes right from the beginning.
That's beautiful. That's such a beautiful story.
Yeah, I'm really lucky.
From a younger, the younger generation standpoint, the reminder that, do we want to throw out the, status quo word of hustle in this day and age, kind of thing. But I guess you did hustle and grind your way to where you are right now. And a couple of things, you weren't afraid of rejection. You just went and did it. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit. I think we all do. I still do to this day and age, but have a little bit of that imposter syndrome, that feeling like, can I do it? Am I worthy to be there? And when you do sometimes get into a spot, you're like, how did I get here? Why did I get here? Why did I get the chance over someone else? And all of these things can creep into your head. Did you find you had a little bit of that too?
So I have always been confident, and I've always felt like I fit in. And I think that has helped against the imposter syndrome feeling, largely because of the way I was brought up. And because I did so well in school and I excelled compared to others, and I was getting grades that schools hadn't even seen before, I was always praised. And I think that added to the fact that built my confidence really as I was growing up. So it helped me go into spaces never feeling like I didn't belong. But I also think that I was always just so ambitious and so driven and knew what I wanted that it never occurred to me that I couldn't get it.
I wonder where that originated from. I wonder where that came from. Because for me, one thing that's always been there, but instead of using it as a hindrance, I tend to think of it more now as fuel. But it was, most of my peers went to further education, got their A-levels, went to university, etc. Whereas for me, I didn't go down that route. I went straight into work, and I had to self-educate my way to this point. So there's always been a little niggly bit of me that's always had that tiny bit of imposter syndrome. But for me, it's been fuel rather than something that's hindered me in a way. But it's great to see everything that you're doing. And I know that you've turned this...
And Amit, I would just say on that, that because you've said that it's interesting, I wonder where that comes from. And actually, I'm just reflecting as you've asked me that it probably comes from the fact I love learning.
Yeah.
Because every opportunity where I perhaps hadn't got a skill or wasn't quite there yet, I was always willing to learn from somebody. I remember I went to a networking event, or it may have just been an event, but for me it was about networking.
Hey, when you hustle like us, every event is
event's networking. And I've got to have been only about 18 or something. And I went up to this group of people and said, "Hi, I'm Anila, I'm a budding journalist." And this man turned around to me. I've no idea who he is, but I've never forgotten him. And he said, "Are you a budding journalist or are you a journalist?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to become one, but that's why I'm here." And he said, "You're either doing it or you're not." And he said, "So now I want you to go up to that group of people and introduce yourself as, 'Hi, I'm Anila, I'm a journalist.'"
Nice.
And so you could see that as imposter syndrome. I'm a budding journalist. But I think I always saw everything as a learning ground. And so I did go up to that group. And that's from that point, I never turned back. I never said anything else.
That's beautiful. I love that story. So you've never come across this person again?
No, I've got no idea who they are, but they're featured very heavily in my life.
If you are that person, we'd love to know, because obviously you've had such an impact. It's interesting you talk about people who impact you, because one of my big influences was, and it was around learning, when I did do a little bit of further education, it was my economics lecturer. He's still around to this day. And I'll just share this beautiful story because I think it is so beautiful. He, as well as being the economics lecturer, used to do like sort of an extracurricular study skills course. It's a 10-week program where he taught all sorts of things like mind mapping, speed reading, and a whole host of other things as well. And the way he taught, I think, fueled me to love learning, which I'd never had before. So I'd written this on my blog years ago. And I just put it out there. I said, this guy, his name is Peter Moore, was my economics teacher. I've lost touch with him, but he had such a profound impact on me. Several years later, I think one of his relatives saw that and got in touch with me, messaged me. And she said to me, she goes, "I think that you're talking about my uncle. He's doing well, he's around, and eventually after a little bit of back and forth, I eventually got in touch with him and stuff, and I've got his number, and I speak to him occasionally, not often, but I speak to him occasionally. He's in his 80s now, but it's just that impact, that level of impact. Sometimes, obviously, when you're doing this, like, you don't know what impact you're going to have on someone else growing up and going through this, and he didn't know, he wasn't aware of it at all.
Yeah.
But I had to tell him, I said, you know what, for the first time in my life, I loved learning. And it was partly because of the way you taught.
That's
you taught me,
amazing.
you taught me to love learning. And I think, what greater thing is there than that? I just can't think of one.
It is. That's a beautiful story. And also what's really beautiful is the fact you got to say thank you.
Yeah, I did. And I still do keep in touch with him. Not like every day, but of course I drop him a call now and again. I know he's getting older, bless him. And he is a very altruistic individual.
Yeah.
Lives by himself, but he's always helping his neighbours, sorting out their gardens, doing this, doing that.
I was going to say, what more could you ask for than to touch people's lives?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to reach out to him as well, so that he knew, how many people along the way do sometimes say thank you to their mentors, to their people who've impacted them. It's probably very small ultimately, but I hope that even just hearing it from one would be enough to just make him remember and realize, that's a beautiful thing. I'm glad I managed to help you in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely. And now look at you. You're doing amazing and you're helping others. So you're paying it forward.
Oh, thank you. I do try my best. I appreciate that. And you are doing that now as well, actually, through doing some of your communication and public speaking workshops. Now, here's an interesting question for you. I don't know if this is still true or not, but you know how people say public speaking is still one of the biggest fears that people have? Would you say that's still the case?
I would say that.
Would you say it is?
Most likely true, yes.
Really? Because I would have thought by now where people are having to adopt this skill more and more, especially in the workplace, it's a bigger thing than ever now. So I would have thought that people are becoming more and more comfortable being in front of an audience and speaking. But from what you're hearing, still definitely...
The majority of people who talk to me about public speaking say they absolutely hate it.
Really?
They dread it. Thinking about it makes them sweat and shake.
I do all of those things too, but I love it though. When I first did stand-up comedy, I remember the first time, the fear was real. The burning feeling in the pit of your stomach. So do you remember Hyde?
I don't know.
You may not remember him, Hardy, but so we did a charity comedy night together for his very first one. He's a natural born comedian. I'm not. Prior to that, we did a practice night with about 10 to 15 friends. He did his and he absolutely smashed it. I did mine. I did 11 minutes of material, got like one laugh, right? So I went away and I thought, okay, I need to learn. So I read a few books, tried to understand, because I don't think I was you meet some people and they're really funny. I wasn't one of those people. I thought I was funny, but I don't think I was. So I wanted to dissect the mechanics of humor and see if I could take some really good jokes, dissect them, recreate them in my own vernacular, and then obviously put it out there as comedy. And gradually I got better and better. And when we did our gig, that charity gig, it went down really well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it was very scary though. And even to this day, as I'm doing my dating masterclass tomorrow, and it's only a small group of 20 people.
Incredible.
I know when I get there, the nerves will still be there. It never disappears, but I do love it though. Because again, for me, it fuels me. Do you find that you still get nerves when you're on screen or you're speaking in public or anything?
Not at all.
Really?
I don't feel nervous. No.
Lucky so-and-so.
I have been confident from the earliest age I can remember. And this is largely down to the people I was around. And again, at school, I excelled. And even to the point where I would win handwriting competitions and my work would be up on the wall for the whole school to walk past as an example of how to write neatly and nicely. So I've always been really confident. But it's interesting you say that you feel nerves, but you love it, because nervous energy and excited energy are the exact same.
Yeah.
It's about how you frame it.
Yeah.
So you may actually be really excited rather than nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely say that. Yeah, I don't know what word describes it better, but I would absolutely agree with that 100%. But it's both. There's still that feeling that scared is not the right word, but that that little bit of heat, sweating, feeling a little bit of like apprehension, tiny bit of anxiety.
That may come from the fact that you are slightly nervous, perhaps, about how people will engage with what you're about to tell them and how they'll receive the information that you're going to give.
I'm so glad you said that, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. And there are times when I'm speaking and I'm speaking to people and I wonder, are they losing interest in what I'm saying? Do you find that as well? Or do you find that other people have had that same fear? And if so, what's the answer?
People definitely come to me with that fear and say, I love speaking. Even if they may love speaking, they may say to me, but I feel like people get bored. And I say, what gives you that impression? People are looking down. And there are tools and techniques to engage or re-engage people if you feel like they're staring off or feeling bored or disengaged or have lost your trail of thought. For example, we could be speaking like this, Amit, what did you have for breakfast? And suddenly you look up and you think, oh,
That's exactly what I just did, because I raised my eyebrow. I was trying to think, oh yeah, yeah, up and to the left. I was thinking, what did I have?
And there you are capturing someone's attention through the simple tool of a question. So let's say, for example, somebody's been asked to give a presentation in a meeting and they've given loads of facts and statistics and people's heads are starting to look down, or they're reaching for their coffee or they're starting to dawdle. What do you do at that moment? You ask, is everyone with me? There may be silence. You may want to pick people and go around the table. Really just want to know, is there anything I've said that you want more information on? And to start engaging people simply by asking a question. So I teach tools and techniques in different scenarios so people can feel like they are being the most engaging they can.
That's beautiful. It's a great tip, actually, and I will remember that for tomorrow. I'm going to put it into practice tomorrow, and I'm going to let you know exactly how it goes.
Yeah, do, please.
My other bad habit, and we're going to digress a little bit shortly towards things like dating and relationships as well, and how to apply this, but I'm just fascinated because you're so good at what you do, and what I love about what you do and how you do it is you're just so clear and crisp, and there is no room for misinterpretation whatsoever. Whereas I know my mind works really fast, so I jump from subject to subject halfway through, and I go all over the shop. So tomorrow, and one thing as well that I wanted to ask you is that I'm a fidgeter.
Okay.
If I could fidget when I speak to people, I would be so much of a better speaker, because I'm one of these people. I need to fidget to distract my body so that I can focus and concentrate on what I'm doing. Is there anything else I can do to help me alleviate that fidgeting need?
Why do you fidget, and what does fidgeting look like?
It could be anything. So even when I'm coaching people, generally speaking, if I've got if I had my wrist grips in my hand, for example, I might be squeezing my wrist grips. I find for me, my body's a distraction. So if I want to focus and concentrate on what you're saying, I need to distract my body so that I can my attention is on you 100%. But if I'm not, I'm more aware of my body. Little movements, little itches, little things, whatever, like scratching my eyelid, that's whatever, anything.
Why do you think you're aware of your body?
I don't know. I've never quite figured it out.
Okay. Well, I would say start on that and think, what is it that where you're feeling like your body is disengaged from your words and mind?
I literally Oh God! Normally I wouldn't be doing this,
to
right?
me, it sounds like there's a disconnect between when you're engaging with somebody and how your body is engaging. And what we would work through in a workshop is understanding why there's a disengagement between your body and your mind and words, and how to bring them together so that you are fully, your body, your mind, your words, fully engaged in what you're doing. Because what we don't want when we're interacting is for any part of us to feel like it's a hindrance to our communication and connection with other people. And really, why should it be? Why do you want your body to be a hindrance when your body radiates so much beautiful energy? If you use it to engage with people in a beautiful way, you're going to enhance your connection with others.
All the ladies say that to me. I radiate very beautiful energy. I mean, it's completely natural to me. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks on this because it's something I would love to improve upon. So I listened to Charles Duhigg's Super Communicators, great book. I'm definitely going to listen to that one again. Vanessa Van Edwards in Cues, again, phenomenal book. She was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast recently. When I looked at it, Das had probably the most views that I've seen in any of his podcasts.
Wow.
Well, it just goes to show how much people are interested in that subject. And I think it's one of the episodes, it was just so jam-packed with practical information. That's why it's become so popular.
Yeah.
And then there was another gentleman on one of his podcasts recently, a gentleman by the name of Chase Hughes, and he's written something called the Ellipsis Manual. His angle is more from the Secret Services, interrogation, learning body language and everything. But I'm listening to his audiobook at the moment. The first part was a bit difficult to listen to because it's very practical and involves looking at certain, like a chart or a guide to be able to then evaluate body language. So I was listening to it in my car, so I couldn't quite get it. But the second part that I'm just on now is all about hypnosis, how to get into people's subconscious and implant suggestions and a lot more. And I'm loving this because I love that subject. But it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It's amazing what information you can have at hand. And I'm hoping this podcast really helps people.
Yeah. One thing as well that came to me recently was, I don't know if you ever saw Tara Swart.
Yes.
The left eye thing. Because I have a natural habit of looking into your left eye. And I caught myself doing it just a little while ago. And so I decided to start looking into your left eye.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I don't know if it works or not. Right now I'm looking into your left eye. But right now it feels very natural for me, unnatural for me to do that. I'm so used to looking into people's right eye. So I wonder if this is going to make a difference at all.
That is interesting. I think eye contact is crucial.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether it's one eye or the other, making eye contact is really essential to connecting with somebody when you're speaking.
Definitely. And Vanessa Van Edwards, she was a bit more, gave a bit more clarity that sometimes when you look away for example, when I'm coaching and dating, I say to people, don't focus too much on body language because I think it can distract from the moment. You don't want to go too deep into it because otherwise you do lose the beauty of the moment. But it's good to just be aware. And I find that when you are in your, for want of a better phrase, your highest vibration state, your highest energy state, a lot of these things happen naturally anyway. But whether you're working inside out or outside in, if you're working outside in and you feel you need that tool to get you to a place where you feel more calm and centered, then it's a good idea to adopt these tools and try them out and see what works. She was talking about a few things, for example, the fingers together. She said, that looks conspiring.
Yes,
looks like you're plotting to kill that person. Whereas if you want to just, a little, if you are just kind of, that's going to give a bit of a sense of more interest. The kind of the focus, eye focus. There was a few other things in particular that were really good.
And it depends on different situations.
Yeah, let's talk dating right now. So I love it. We're segueing onto it right now as well. Because you've been in a relationship in the past, you're with someone now. But I'd love to know when you were dating, before you met your current partner, how are you finding it? And in terms of did you ever find yourself evaluating their body language, their communication, their ability to get to know you? And if you could take away anything from that and share it with anyone out there who's dating right now, that's something that's valuable to people about more authentic communication. How do people remove some of that initial facade and feel more relaxed on a date?
Okay, so my advice when it comes to, because I deliver public speaking workshops, and confidence workshops, for anyone dating, and you've touched on a key word there, which is authentic, being authentic. Confidence to me is knowing who you are. Speaking confidently is voicing who you are. Dating confidently is connecting authentically through your voice, knowing who you are. So for anyone who is dating, I would say, know who you are first. And what you want to be able to do, I would say, is be whole before you go to meet somebody. Because it's only when you're whole that you're able to then... Because when you're whole and sure of yourself, you're no longer looking for qualities outside of you to complete you. You're absolutely fine on your own, but you're looking for somebody to partner up with, pair up with, who perhaps complements you and complements your values. So I would suggest working on yourself before dating.
Yeah. And to when you're actually, if you feel like you've done work and you want to get out there, how can you get to know someone better? Because I think one of the big questions I have, and it's surprising in this day and age, but it's still a very big question, and something that still happens very often, which is the superficial interrogation that can happen on dates. How are you? What do you do? Where are you from? How many brothers and sisters have you got? That's a nice outfit you're wearing. You look lovely today, etc. And we find ourselves going down this very slippery slope where we kind of almost stonewall ourselves into a dead-end conversation. So how can one get into a more flowing, natural, flirty, and when I say flirty, I always say to people, don't misinterpret the word flirty. It's not sexual to me. It's about that beautiful ping pong conversation, that natural banter that you develop with someone. How can we get into that natural, beautiful, conversation where it does feel free flowing, it does feel bouncing, especially if someone is just, again, nerves, or if it's just, that natural facade we put up. Perhaps we've had some bad experiences and we don't know what we want to let out to another person or not. But how can we kind of authentically get to know each other?
Yeah. So if somebody has done the work on themselves and you have asked yourself the question, who am I? What do I stand for? What's my purpose? And what are my values? You're going out pretty well equipped to say, this is who I am and this is what I want from a relationship. I think it's really essential to write these things down. This is what we do in my workshop on confidence. I ask people to write down who they are, what they believe in, their identity, their values, how they want to portray themselves. And then I would say the next step with dating advice is, what are you looking for? And what does a relationship, a healthy relationship, look like to you? If you know who you are and what you stand for and what your values are, you're able to have a bit more of an in-depth conversation, I would say, because you're no longer looking at the superficial of name, age, date of birth, place of birth, bank account, or whatever else. Maybe
that does happen. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because you are already solid in yourself. So you're going to be coming from a place of, well, these are my beliefs. This is what I value. For example, somebody may value their family and friends. So they may be looking for somebody who also values family and friends and who will be able to reciprocate the respect, knowing, well, my family and friends are important to me, so I want them to be important to you. And that's how I think you create meaningful connection. And ultimately, I always say in my workshops, the start and the basic is that communication is a two-way street, and we communicate to connect with others. That may be to gain their trust, to get a reaction, to gain information, to get information, give and receive. So when people are going on a date, what are you looking to receive from the other person? And what are you giving? Are you giving the correct information? This is who I truly am, rather than trying to impress. And are you getting back the information that you really need to help you decide, will that create a healthy relationship for me, or could there be conflict? And that's not to say that relationships don't have conflict or there won't be compromise. And I think that's the other thing, that often people go into something thinking that everything needs to be ticked off. And they forget that actually there are really essential key areas that make or break a relationship. And I think values is one of them.
Yeah. I talk about values a lot, and I think that it's something that can be very easily overlooked for the checklist. Even the old Sima auntie says, you may get 60-70%, but you won't get all. But the checklist is very dangerous.
But it's also what you're willing to compromise on, because every relationship, whether that's with your friends, your family, your partner, every relationship in your life, there will be something where there's either a compromise or a sacrifice that has to be made. And what are you willing to compromise and sacrifice, and willing then to make the relationship work? Because all relationships require work.
Are we allowed to mention your partner's name?
You can do.
Only if you want me to. I wanted to ask, so when you first met each other, what's one thing that he said he found attractive in you, and what's one thing that you found attractive in him? Like, what was the genesis of the attraction, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Well, we have an interesting story, actually, because I had heard his voice from an interview about 10 years ago, and I had never forgotten him and his energy and his words,
Wow.
but I had no idea what he looked like.
Yeah.
But all these years later, I wanted to speak to him again, and I've been writing a book, and so I asked for an interview. And the moment we began to speak, I realised again how incredible he was, why I'd remembered him all these years later, and he happened to be single. So we kept it, I have to say, really professional. He told me right from the offset that he was single. I kept that in my mind, interviewed him very professionally, and then at the end of it suggested a coffee.
Nice. Smooth. So you suggested the coffee as well?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
I love it. So the woman made the move. Beautiful.
I did. That's confidence.
That is, yeah,
That's
it's true.
knowing that, you know, there's a connection there, and let's go for it.
I say to so many women, you don't realize how wonderful it is as a man to be asked out. It's honestly, it's so nice to hear. And even in a very subtle form of just coffee. You know, it doesn't have to be a big grand gesture, but just from a guy's point of view, always feeling the pressure of having to be the one to make the first move and facing that uncertainty. And it isn't easy. It's by no means easy at all. So when the woman asks, probably one of the hardest parts has been taken care of. And it's almost like the guy can breathe a sigh of relief. So,
And why leave it to chance and take the risk?
Yeah.
Because if you see something in somebody, and you asked about what qualities, actually, I think for both of us, it's our work ethic and our ambition that touched both of us immediately. And I think why leave it to, why create the risk? I say go for it if you see something, because the risk of not going for it means you don't give yourself the chance.
Yeah. I have this singles WhatsApp group, and there's nearly 800 people on there, and they're all single. I treat it a bit like a pseudo dating app. So for the most part during the week, people post their profiles. And then on the weekend, we try and have a bit of fun. So I say to people, look, if you've dated someone and maybe they're not for you, but you'd love to recommend them because they're just a good human being, then we'll do #datemymate. And
That's
then,
nice.
yeah, it's a good little system that we have. And then also, it's, you know, it's, you don't have to do this because more often than not, people are going to just approach someone directly that they've seen on the group. But if you fancy, you know, just really plucking up the courage, you can do something called shoot your shot, which is, of course, just going for it and asking the person out that you really like. Yeah, so we have this, and I do see a few of the ladies actually putting themselves out there, and it's great to see. And you just don't know what can happen by just doing it, the beauty that can occur from taking a bit of a chance on yourself and another person. And yes, it may be no, but, you know, when I asked you and I thought, this is it, we're talking about Anila coming on my podcast, she's going to say no. I was like, no, I didn't really think that, but I could so easily have thought that and thought, you know what, why would she want to come on my podcast? And,
I mean, I've never publicly spoken about dating and relationships, so it's quite something being here.
We've broken it. We've taken your cherry.
You have taken me out of my comfort zone of topics for sure.
I love it. I love it. That's what we love to do. That's what I want to be able to do as well, which is great. I think it's great that you've done that, to be able to share, because it's beautiful. It inspires other people as well. There's going to be other people, men and women, watching this going, she could do it. Oh, I could do it.
Yeah. And in my workshop, I ask people, what is it that you fear? And then I teach this Socratic technique, which is the question, so what? So what if they say no? I'll ask someone else. So what if it doesn't go to plan? I'll create a new plan. It's never the end of the world. It's always, well, where do I go from here?
Yeah. That's a great rejection technique. I love that. Just so what?
So what?
Yeah, it's true. So what? So what? So what that you're so confident? So what? No, it's been an awesome conversation. Actually, there's a couple more questions before we wrap up. I want to know Actually, I'm going to ask a selfish question. This is for me now. So first one is, how do I eliminate some of my filler words that I'm particularly guilty of? My ones are obviously, also, always. Those are probably my biggest ones. How do I eliminate filler words as I'm speaking in public or speaking to people?
Great question. And the fact that you're conscious of what the filler words are is the start. And then I would say slow down. Every time you are about to catch the word, which requires you to be conscious of the word when you're about to say it, stop yourself and pause instead.
Nice.
Those are not bad filler words. It's when you start with the there. See, it's the that take people off the trail. Just pause. It's much more effective.
Do you know where it comes
like
from?
That.
For me, it comes from the fear of silence, where I don't have that as much anymore, but that habit has remained. You know, when you're, with someone and I don't even like to call it an awkward silence, but, back in the day, I would say it was an awkward silence. It would be to fill that awkward silence or fill the gap in my head, so to speak. But now I think it's more of a habit than anything else. And it's just something I want to gradually whittle away.
Silence can be really effective.
Yeah.
And when you're on stage or speaking to a group of people, it's amazing how creating gaps of silence, just like I'm doing now, can get people hanging on your every word, because you suddenly stop people in their tracks. You may be talking really fast and people have been keeping up with what you're saying, but you give them a pause and a moment to think. So you can use silence to your benefit. It doesn't have to be awkward at all. It's what you make of it.
I mean, your pauses there just gave me goosebumps. Yeah. I mean, they were quite...
Oh, nice.
They were quite emphatic, your pauses. Ooh. I love it. Tony Robbins is a master communicator. I mean, he is just... Anyone who's been to a Tony Robbins workshop knows he's a fast talker, but he's a master storyteller and he's a master of the pause and many other things on top of that. But he is absolutely brilliant. I know. Yeah, there are some incredible ones out there. But when I watched Vanessa on the podcast as well, she was phenomenal. Really, like, you could tell she's an absolute master of her craft. Very self-aware. She knows when she's deliberately putting in the errors and able to recreate the errors so that people can see from an observational point of view and then correct them and show the better way of going about it. And I think it was just incredible. Is there anything I haven't asked you today that you'd like to share, whether it's towards dating, relationships, communications, being a better communicator, being more authentic with your communication and connecting on a deeper level?
I think you've asked me everything, but the key really is that confidence and being confident in a dating scenario or in a relationship or in a meeting room or wherever it may be, networking event with your family, with your friends. It's about knowing who you are. That's really fundamental, I believe. And if you know who you are, you'll be able to, I hope, with tools and techniques that I give, be able to put that into practice through your words and through your actions. And I said in this podcast, I was born confident, but confidence can be learnt. And I've put together a workshop with steps, my thought processes, activities that I've crafted to try to help people to digest tools and information to hopefully get them to feel more confident in themselves and be able to portray that to other people in different scenarios.
Absolutely. I love that. Have you got another workshop coming up? Are you planning another one soon?
So I do a lot of one-to-ones and group workshops. I am actually holding a masterclass soon, but, one-to-ones, groups, people who may want it as a team building activity. Lots of plans for
I love it as well. Where'd you find the time to do all of this on top of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, but it's so fulfilling that I make time
Yeah.
for it, because seeing people go on a journey from facing their fears to feeling confident that they can go out and do something. And even if they may still feel the fear, they go out and do it anyway, because they're equipped with enough of the tools to say, I can do this.
Good old Susan Jeffers, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel the same as you. When people come to, even if it's the one-to-one coaching, come to the masterclass, and I see the impact it genuinely has. There are some people who literally take what I say verbatim and will go out and practice it. And there are others who are like, it doesn't relate to me. I don't do this anyway. I don't need to worry about it. And to be honest, I'm guilty of that too sometimes. But when you see the impact it has for the people who do apply it, it's, you know, it's such a fulfilling thing. And I, like you said, for me, it's why I make the time to do all of these things. It's just a beautiful, beautiful sight to see, to observe when people witness it for themselves, and they almost have their own aha moment. They're like, yes, I see what you mean now. This is working. People are opening up to me. We're getting better rapport. I'm getting better at communicating. And there's actually, lo and behold, a second date and whatever else. So It's great to see. What's your biggest story that you love from impact it's had, what you teach on someone else?
Oh, I think all of them are, because everybody comes with something slightly different, or a different background or scenario or area that they want to work on. So for me, it's always seeing that light bulb moment during a workshop where somebody says, that's what it is, and this is what I need to do. And that really resonated with me. But it really is, every time I see somebody doing something more than they would have, and then I've had so much feedback from people who say it's changed their life. People have literally said to me that my workshops have changed their life because they're now doing something they never would have done before. And I think that's incredible, because I literally wrote this workshop from my own thought processes. I put together activities in a way that I thought, what can I do to help somebody understand this information in a practical way? How can I make this learning fun? So I just put it together myself, pen to paper, and put together a workshop. And to see that it's working for others is just absolutely amazing. It's just so fulfilling.
And the last and most important question, how could people reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, aniladhami.com. I will leave one bit of advice, I suppose, for your dating and relationships, is be the best version of yourself. And take that best version of you and then connect with others.
I love that. What a perfect way to finish off. Anila, hand on heart, can I just say thank you for being my guest, and such an awesome guest as well. And I would love to do a part 2 at some point. Perhaps we'd even get your other half in here as well. Maybe we could do a threesome, who knows?
It's been so lovely being here. Thanks, Amit.
I've really enjoyed it as well. And so thank you for being my amazing guest. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Feel Inspired podcast. This is Anila Dhami. You can reach out to her. She is absolutely incredible. And she is sincerely one of these people, if you reach out, you'll have access to her. She'll reply. She'll respond to you. So don't worry at all. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see everyone on the next episode. Thank you.